Hey there, friends. This is Bill MacDonald, the writing doctor and the reading doctor, as many of you now know. And today I want to talk to you about how to figure out the parts of a story just using your hand, your fingers, your arm, and your toes. The question that we're going to look at today says, what is the message of the story? Well, unless you read the story, you won't know the message because the message is like the theme, the moral of the story, the lesson that could be learned, an extension, which means like, how is my world different or better or worse because of what happened? And I'm going to teach it based on a saying that says, don't judge a person until you've walked a mile in their shoes, because inside their shoes are their toes, their voice. And so toes is going to be an acronym that we're going to look at. So let's take a look at the question. And many of you have this now because I was able to send it to you by email at your request. The very first question in third grade that gave your students trouble was question number 9. And I highly suggest that you get my storytelling remote because life happens at full speed, but reading and writing happens in slow motion, one detail at a time. And so it has all the buttons of the remote. And so what we're going to do is fast forward on the remote to the important events, and we'll push pause and do some teachable moments. Uh, as you can see, the question got 45% correct, and the answer was making the right choice can be difficult. So if you know the concept of a story, that in many stories, there's a conflict, which is a problem, and a resolution. Well, if there's a problem, then this could work. But let me show you the question so we can find out why so many kids had trouble. It said, what is the main message of the story? This is third grade. And so that means you're a third grader, went into fourth grade, not understanding really the concept of the message. And the correct answer was making the right choice can be difficult. So that would be sort of an ending. And so if you think of your feet ending, you have two shoes. Your shoes have laces, and in your laces, you want to tie them in the same way that you would tie everything together. And the big distractor, the biggest ones, was that spending time outdoors can be rewarding. That would mean that there was no problem or no conflict that needed to be resolved. So let me show you something that will help you think of how a story works. So there is my hand, and I call it the Readvising Graphic Organizer. And for the sake of today's lesson, we're going to use it for reading. And so there's my hand. And so there's many things that you want to think about. The thumb, as you can see there, is the beginning. The fingers are the middle. The pinky is the end. The thumb is the introduction. The fingers are the middle. The body, and the pinky is the ending. So if we take a look at how uh, this can work, I want you to notice that it has the word purpose there, and our purpose is a story. It's just a story written in third person, and there's any that it's to entertain, but we've got to decide, is the entertainment just to have a good time, or is there a conflict and a resolution? Well, since they asked about theme, we want to be able to find out the message that can be learned. So in the ending is where you would want to talk about things that would be important. So let me show you, I call it the PEPE plan. So let me write the word PEPE right here so we can kind of see how it works when you're having a story. And we used to teach this when we were doing personal narrative in Texas. So for those of you that have kids who are struggling with stories, think of the word PEPE. It's a Spanish name. Okay. The first thing that you want to think about is every story goes to a certain place and there are certain people that are involved. Then in the E part of PEPE, there's a main event. It will be the focus of the story. And the next plan, that middle finger there, you go ahead and stretch out my typing so you can see kind of, there's usually a, in the case of this story, there's a conflict which we can also call a problem, the PEPE, and a resolution could be the ring finger, and the story, the ending is the last finger. So the PEPE is, who are the people in the place where's the place that they're going and who are the people involved, what's the event. In this case, the problem has a conflict and a resolution and an ending. So as you see that, I'm gonna slide down the screen so you can see the bottom of the revising graphic organizer. And if you look in the section down here where the arm is, the question was asking about it was asking about the theme. Well, in order to know the theme, we have to know the transition. How does it move from the conflict to the resolution? So keep that in mind as I show you another way to look at it using my little train graphic organizer. What I've done, all of you that have the graphic organizer, when you're doing reading or when you're doing writing, you figure out the purpose. What is my palm starts with a P. What is the purpose? It's a story. It's fiction. The point of view, P, is in third person. There's not a prompt or a topic because it's not writing, it's just a question. And the question was, what was the main message of the story? And so as you see here, there's my PEPE plan, the, the, the place and the people, the event, the problem, the conflict, and hopefully that has a resolution, and the ending. As you see here, it's got I for introduction, B for body, C for conclusion, and any transitions that happen. If this was a human body, we would call that the necklace transition to the body. This would be the belt between the conflict and the resolution during the event, and the socks could be the transition to the ending. So in summary, fast forwarding on the remote, The place is a national park. The people are Layla, the main character, Cooper, her classmate, and the tour guide. What is the event that leads us to the problem? They're going on a hike on a trail. Here's the problem. Layla finds a geo, which is a rock that she wants to take with her, even though the tour guide said to only take pictures. So there's a conflict. And so there's a saying that says, don't judge a person till you've walked a mile in their shoes. And so I've drawn a little picture that you can probably draw with your kids. In endings, you want to tie it all together. And when I said don't judge a person till you walked a mile in their shoes, because there's their shoelaces, inside their shoes are their toes, the voice of who they are. What does toes stand for? So you could have your kids draw a picture of the word toes, because that's the voice and writing. And we're only going to focus on the things that are involving this story. And so I wrote toes there. And so the transition we said was the socks. How is it? What? Let's look at we'll look at a few details that lead up to the ending. In the ending, is there a theme that we could put, which was missing in this case? Was there a truism, some quote, some word of wisdom? Uh, some of you call it an extension. How is life different or better or worse? Does she share any head details, her thoughts and opinions now that the story is over? Does she share any emotions, her heart detail that she tells with words or shows with her actions? We'll check that out. Does she use her senses at the end? And I circled some because she's going to let you hear some things, smell some things, and she's going to say some things uh, as part of toes to kind of help you lead to how she decides what to do and in terms of the ending. So let me start by fast forwarding to paragraph 10. Layla has already found the rock. The guy had said, take pictures, but only put footprints. Cooper doesn't want her to go by that. So here's where her conflict starts. Layla bit her lip uncertainly as her fingers touched the rock inside her pocket. It would give me something to help me remember the trip, she thought. But Layla could not ignore the heavy feeling that settled over her heart. So those are emotions. She could have said she got sad, but she describes a heavy feeling that's settling, that's showing her emotions. She gets to remind you of what the tour guide said. Take only pictures, leave only footprints. The tour guide's words played over and over in her mind. So they're letting you hear her thoughts, what's going on inside her head. And so if you want to color code the letters of toes, T was yellow in my case, the O was blue, the E was orange, and the S, that's kind of purplish there. So on the last part, as we transition, the important details, the sweet scent of the honeysuckle blossoms brought a smile to her face. Well, I got to smell something. What was the reaction? It made her smile. She's happy. And so apparently she's already made her decision. The songs of the nearby birds seem to speak to her and tell her what to do. That's what she's hearing. She felt the heaviness lift from inside of her. Her emotions are transferring. So the heaviness that was there before is now gone. She smiled when the sunlight bounced off the crystals. That's what she saw, sending the ray in 1,000 directions of what. That's what she saw, her senses. You sure are pretty, she murmured. That's what she said. She was still smiling, showing her emotions. As she looked ahead to her classmates who were down the trail, as she started to jog, Layla cradled the geo gently in her arms. So Basically, she's showing how much she loves it. Closing thought, her ending. I know just who to show you to. Layla said with confidence, her emotions as she ran to join the group and talk to the tour guide. So, some ending details. You got to hear her emotions. She told and showed some. We got to hear something, we smelled something, and she said some things. And so you can tell that the burden that she felt over here about deciding, thinking about keeping that geode, that rock, were lifted because you're going to have to infer to read between the lines that she's not going to keep it. So if we look back at the answer choice, show that to you, because it wasn't just an event with no problem. The focus wasn't on rules for safety. It wasn't about safety. It was more about integrity, about honesty, about doing the right thing. And so making the right choice can be difficult. So if you look at your little T, the theme based on the opinions and her thoughts that they let you get involved with, the emotions that they let you feel. It went from having a heavy feeling in her heart to the feeling going away to the things that she said in the senses. You can tell when you tie this all together that the theme, the message, the thing that's true, the truism about this story is that sometimes making the right choice can be difficult. And so even though we're going to eliminate letters A, B, and C, part of E could be, let's give some examples in life where making the right choice can be difficult. What are some other situations where you could make the wrong decision? And it wasn't just, do I pick um, a fruit for my dessert or do I eat junk food? Well, that could work, but it was more about uh, character. It was about morals and it was about honesty. And so, what I would suggest you do is have your kids think, what are some other situations where you have to come up with something that makes you have the message that making the right choice can be difficult, and not always do we make the right choice. So one thing that I might say is, I'm in a hurry and I know that the speed limit is 30 miles an hour, but I went 49 miles an hour, and so I could get to my place on time, and it ended up costing me a ticket. In yesterday's training, the teacher said, let's say that you find some money and no one knows how much money is there except the person who owns it in the purse or in the wallet. So you could try to decide, hey, do I take some of the money and return the wallet, return the purse? At least the person will be glad that I gave it back. Because if it's an adult, they probably have credit cards and they have personal belongings in there. And so, yeah, that conflict and that resolution, deciding whether to make the right decision or not, is going to be up to us in life. And so, how about you guys? Think of a theme related to our theme that making the right choice could be difficult. What conflict, what event could happen where there'd be a conflict and a resolution where we either do make the right decision like Layla did, or make the wrong one and then have to live with the result, like Bill did, of speeding and getting a ticket, because the message I still learned was, even if you're in a hurry sometimes, it's still better to obey the speed limit and be safe. Thank you guys, and God bless.